Hello and welcome to this edition of Assembly Update. My name is Schimminger, Robin Schimminger. I serve in the New York State Assembly. I represent Kenmore, Town of Tonawanda, City of Tonawanda, North Tonawanda in Niagara County. Usually I'm the guest being interviewed by an interviewer on this show, but this time we're going to do it a little different. I have a guest. In fact, I have two guests, two women who are sisters, one of whom suffers from autism. The two sisters have written a book. One wrote it, the other illustrated it. They are my guests today, and I'd like to welcome Jessica and Jocelyn Davis.
Thank you.
Jessica, thank you. Jocelyn, thank you. April has been Autism Awareness Month, and that's why I thought it was especially important and valuable to have these two guests today. The title of the book was There Will Always Be Love. I think there was a song by that title, and it explains what life is like living with this disorder. Jocelyn wrote the book, and Jessica illustrated it. Let me ask you some questions, if that's okay. Okay. Question number one: what is autism? What is autism?
Well, autism is a social and cognitive disability. It's known as a developmental disability. And basically, it affects the way that somebody who has autism processes a situation neurologically. So Jessica and I, even though we're twins, when presented with a situation, we look at it totally differently. So that's how it manifests itself.
And then that's how it manifests itself. But how has it affected you as people, as sisters, as twins, no less?
Well, as twins, you know, especially in school and things like that, Jessica's ability to read social cues, to understand what's going on in social situations, can sometimes be very limited and at a lesser degree than somebody who doesn't have autism. And so a lot of our time is spent training and explaining about, you know what, when you're in this social situation, you know, this is what that means when somebody says this. You know, also it deals with a lot of, you know, this is important in real life, whereas for Jessica, those things aren't so important. Things like finances, things like just basic living skills to living on your own. Those things don't process as a priority to her. And so as a family member, you know, I'm always on her, and the rest of my family is always on her and trying to teach her about why this is really important in the world that we all live in, even though she doesn't process that as a priority or process that as something that needs to be done.
I think many people nowadays know someone or know a family or have heard about a situation where there is someone with autism. But are there statistics now, are there numbers that come out nationally or in the state as to percentages of people, of children who are found to be suspected of having autism?
Absolutely. You know, every few years the CDC comes out with new statistics on the national level. And just recently, at the beginning of April, they came out with 1 in 88 children now are being diagnosed with autism. And, you know, there's a lot of reasons for that. The first very important reason being that, you know, nowadays doctors, teachers, psychologists, everybody involved with the well-being of a child is much more informed with autism and what it means and what to look for than they were in the last 10, 15 years. And we've actually had a jump. The previous numbers were 1 in 110. Now they're all the way up to 1 in 88. And a lot of it has to do with just more awareness of the situation, what to look for, understanding what services are available, and all those things put together.
So Jessica, you're not alone.
No.
There are many, I guess, a growing statistic, right?
Yes. Back when Jess and I were kids, it was 1 in 10,000. We're 28 years old. That statistic
You're
came
not
out.
28 years old.
Absolutely.
You look much younger.
Well, I appreciate that. But it was 1 in 10,000 back when we were, what was it, Jess? When were we in Kansas? When we were 5?
Yeah, 1989.
So 1989, that's, and now, a little more than 20 years later, it's higher than 1% of kids is being diagnosed. So I think it's an exponential growth even from
Jocelyn,
back
do you
then.
think that there's one of these age-old questions about disease and statistics and so on, whether it's a growing number of people with the condition or simply that more are being identified and diagnosed? Any comment on that?
I think it's a balance of both. I think it's very easy to say it's one or the other. There's certainly an increase in the incidence of autism because we have better diagnostic tools, because they opened up the spectrum in 1994 to include other developmental disabilities that weren't just classic autism under the label of autism. So that definitely has something to do with it. But we also can't discount the idea that our environment is constantly changing, that there are environmental factors that could be a part of it. Personally, I think it's both. Scientifically, there hasn't been a clear-cut reason, but I don't think that it's specifically one or the other. I think it's a marriage of the two that's causing it.
Would you guys mind if we talked a little bit about the book?
Sure. What do you think?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Well, Jessica and Jocelyn, why did you decide to do this book?
Well,
I'll hold up the book. This is the book. Okay?
Yes. Jocelyn and I decided to do the book because when it comes to autism literature, there's a lot of things that have been written by adults who have autism and adults who have children or relatives with autism for adults, but there aren't a lot of books that are written about autism that are for kids. Off the top of my head, I've only ever seen really one author who's ever dealt with the subject, gearing it towards children. So we thought, I have autism and my sister as a sibling with autism, it would be something, a new perspective, a perspective that's not often looked at. And so that was ultimately what had us decide that we would write a book and I would illustrate it. So,
Since I like best of all looking at the pictures, I think I will probably be especially interested in your pictures. You know what I did? I bought 5 copies of your book.
oh,
And it is my plan so that the people out there in television land who maybe are watching us will be able to, when I get a chance, to donate each of the 5 copies of the book that I bought to 5 libraries in my assembly district.
it's pretty awesome.
And
Thank you.
not only the North Tonawanda Library, but also the Tonawanda Library and the Kenmore Library and the Kenilworth Library. And we even have kind of a not-for-profit private library. It's open to the public called Brighton Place. They'll get one too. And that way, people back home can read the book and look at the pictures too. Okay? Now, this book was published very recently, right?
Yes.
How recently?
February 3rd.
February 3rd. So it hasn't yet made the bestseller list.
Not yet.
No,
not yet. Of course, we're hoping that it will do that. But the more important thing for us is that we have a message. And, it's going to take people who are interested and who care about autism, people like yourself who are spreading the message out there, about autism awareness, autism acceptance, as well as, education. This is a tool for anybody who's involved with somebody who is autistic. So, we certainly appreciate, the message getting out there in any way we can. So,
Let me ask you a hard question. Is there a cure for autism? No.
No. But with early intervention. The prognosis for an autistic's life is much improved with minimal services.
Currently there is no cure. Basically, what the early intervention and the services that are available deal with are more coping with autism and the autism spectrum. So, right now I think scientists are working a lot on a cure and a lot on how to deal with it and a lot on the cause. But there isn't one right now. So our focus is not necessarily on a cure or a cause, but living day to day with how do you do that? How do I teach my sister this or deal with that? So that's really our focus on it.
These services that you speak of, which you're saying that they mainly deal with coping with the condition. How does one find these services? Just look it up in the phone book or call 211?
If only calling, information was that easy for somebody to find services. The first place that you want to look is on the CDC website. They list
Centers for Disease Control.
Centers for Disease Control. They list by state, the services that are available and where you want to go for that. For other services, for more support groups, there are places like the Autism Society of America, SIB shops, Autism Speaks, who offer support groups as well as information on their websites for services. And of course, if your child is already in the school system, your schools, your teachers, your school psychologists, they should have at least a general idea. So there's a lot of places that you can go for the information, but it does involve quite a bit of legwork.
How does a parent or caregiver or guardian know or suspect that the child is an autism sufferer? What are the signs? What are the symptoms?
Well, there are a lot of signs and symptoms to it. You'll find that a child, may not sleep so well or has a sleep issue, gastrointestinal issues. Maybe they won't look directly into your eyes. There might be some psychological
All those
issues.
Things,
All those things. But one of the things that I've heard a lot of parents say is, my child doesn't keep eye contact with me. My child is
Maybe
missing.
they should read the book.
Exactly.
Where can someone buy the book? Where can you get the book?
You can buy the book at Amazon.com.
Wow.
Yep.
It's that easy.
Yes, it
That's
is.
wonderful. Maybe I'll buy some more copies. But as I say, these books are going to go out to the libraries in my Assembly District so that folks in the Assembly District can go to the library, take out the book, and read it, and see your pictures, see what you wrote, and learn more about autism, which is growing in frequency. So this has been wonderful. Thank you both very, very much, Jessica and Jocelyn, for being here. This is I'm glad we did this little show. Thank you. Thank you very much. This has been Assembly Update. I'm State Assemblyman Robin Schimminger. My guests have been Jessica Davis and Jocelyn Davis. Thank you all very much for watching. Thank you.